The first gunshot didn't sound real. It sounded like something breaking, something expensive. Then came the second, and the third. And suddenly the mansion wasn't silent anymore. It was screaming. Amara didn't think, she ran. If you love intense, emotional stories filled with power, danger, and unexpected love, subscribe to Real Diamond Stories. Because what you're about to hear is not just a story. It's a collision between two worlds that were never meant to meet. At exactly 3:07 a.m., the house was alive. Not with sound, but with silence. A silence so thick it pressed against your chest. This wasn't the quiet of a normal home. This was the quiet of power. The kind that didn't need noise to prove it existed. Every surface in the Valen estate gleamed like it had never been touched by human imperfection. Black marble counters, steel fixtures, glass so clean it looked invisible. It was beautiful and completely lifeless, except for one thing, Amara. Her hands moved beneath hot water, steady and practiced. Plate, rinse, wipe, stack, repeat. She didn't rush, she didn't slow down. She worked like someone who understood one rule. In this house, you are seen only when you make a mistake. Her uniform, a soft gray dress with a white apron, felt out of place in the cold, modern kitchen, like she belonged to another world entirely. Her back ached, her feet burned. 16 hours on duty, and still counting. When Mrs. Keed, the head housekeeper, asked her to stay longer, she didn't hesitate. You don't say no in this house, you survive it. He hadn't slept in 2 days. The smell of cigar smoke clung to the walls of his private study, and the words from earlier still echoed in his mind. They're testing you. You've grown soft. Control is slipping. Dante Valen stood by the window, staring at a city that feared his name. A city he owned pieces of, a city that whispered about him like a myth, crime lord, kingmaker, executioner. But tonight he felt nothing, no victory, no satisfaction, just exhaustion. So he left his study barefoot, silent, moving through his own mansion like a ghost. He wasn't looking for anything dramatic, just water, just something real. He stopped at the kitchen entrance. And that's when he saw her, Amara, standing at the sink, washing dishes like the world outside didn't exist. The light above her framed her in a soft glow, not glamorous, not dramatic, just real. He didn't move, didn't speak, didn't announce himself. He just watched for 1 minute, then 2, then 5. She didn't perform, didn't try to impress anyone, didn't even know she was being watched. And that was new. In his world, everyone performed, everyone feared him, everyone wanted something, but her, she just worked. And for the first time that night, his mind went quiet. Amara felt it, that shift in the air, that instinct. Someone was there watching. She turned, and there he was, tall, still, dangerous, even in silence. Their eyes met. She didn't flinch, didn't panic, just slightly bowed her head. Sir. Her voice was calm, too calm. Dante studied her, looking for fear, for weakness, for anything. But she gave him nothing, just professionalism, just distance. It's late, he said. Yes, sir. No trembling, no hesitation, just control. He grabbed water, drank, watched her again, then left, but not before saying, "Good night, Amara." Something about the way he said her name stayed with her. The library encounter 2 days later, late afternoon. Sunlight stretched across the massive library floor. Amara dusted shelves quietly. She didn't hear him enter, but she felt him again. You avoid looking at people, Dante said. She turned slowly. I focus on my work. That's not what I asked. She met his eyes this time carefully. I look when necessary. A pause, then he stepped closer. Am I necessary? That question hung in the air, heavy, dangerous. She hesitated, then said, You are my employer. The answer he expected, not fear, not admiration. Just truth, and for some reason that irritated him and intrigued him. At the same time, the balcony moment that night. Rain fell softly over the city. Amara stepped outside briefly, just to breathe. She didn't expect him to be there, leaning against the balcony rail, watching the storm. You shouldn't be out here, he said. You shouldn't be awake, she replied, silence then. Why did you take this job? That question caught her off guard. She hesitated, then answered honestly. I needed a reset. What? From a life that stopped making sense. Looked at her differently then, not as staff, not as background, but as someone layered. Do you regret coming here? He asked. She looked at the mansion behind them, then back at the city. I don't regret survival. That hit him harder than it should have. Tuesday, 9:14 p.m. The front doors exploded inward. Gunfire shattered everything. Controlled, precise. Deadly. Amara dropped everything, ran not outside, but deeper inside. She locked herself in a storage room. Dark, silent, terrifying. Her heart pounded. Voices screamed outside, bodies hit floors, glass shattered. And all she had was a broom handle. Minutes passed like hours, then footsteps right outside. The handle turned, her breath stopped. Amara. His voice, she rushed to open it. Dante stood there, covered in blood, eyes burning, alive but barely calm. He looked at her, scanning. checking, making sure she was unharmed. Relief hit him visibly, and that alone shocked her. "You're safe," he said, like it mattered, like she mattered. She noticed the cut on his face, reached out, then stopped, then tried again, softly. "You're bleeding." Didn't react, didn't care. But when her fingers hovered near his face, everything in him shifted. That night changed everything for him, for her, for the house. He knew what he should do, send her away, protect her from his world. That was the logical choice. But logic had never felt this painful, because for the first time in years he had something real. And letting it go felt like losing air. And this was only the beginning, because what Dante does next doesn't just shock his enemies. It shocks his entire empire. Backhand index pointing right if you're enjoying this story so far, like, comment and subscribe. Amara pushes back. Dante loses control internally. The inner circle begins to fracture and the proposal becomes earned, not rushed by mourning. It was like nothing had happened. The broken doors, replaced, the blood, gone, the silence, back. But not the same silence. This one was tighter, watching, listening, waiting. Amara stood in the kitchen again, staring at the same sink, the same plates, the same polished surfaces, but her hands weren't steady anymore. Because now she knew the truth. This house didn't just hold power. It survived violence like it was routine. And somehow she was still inside it. She replayed everything, the gunshots, the fear, the way she hid like something fragile. And then the way he looked at her, not like a boss, not like a stranger. But like losing her would have meant something. That part was the most dangerous, because it made her hesitate. And hesitation gets people trapped. Downstairs in a private room sealed from the rest of the estate, the real conversation was happening. Dante's inner circle sat around a dark table, 6 men, all dangerous, all loyal, but not blindly. "You hesitated," one of them said. His name was Victor Hale, cold eyes, sharper mind. Dante didn't respond. "You were distracted," Victor continued. "During an attack," man leaned forward. "That girl," silence, heavy, accusing. Dante's gaze lifted slowly. "Choose your next words carefully." Victor didn't back down. "She's a variable," he said. "Variables get people killed." Still silence. Then Dante spoke, low, controlled, final. "She stays." That wasn't a discussion, that was law, but the room shifted anyway, because for the first time, their leader made a decision that wasn't strategic. It was personal, and that was dangerous. That evening. Amara didn't wait to be summoned. She found him in his study, the same place filled with shadows and power. "You should send me away." Dante looked up slowly. Of all the things he expected, that wasn't one of them. "Why would I do that?" Her voice didn't shake. "Because I saw what your world does." A pause. "You almost died." "You almost did too." That hit, but she didn't stop. "I didn't sign up to be part of this." It was truth, unfiltered, and for a moment, Dante felt something unfamiliar, resistance. Fear, not obedience, but someone standing in front of him refusing to be absorbed into his world. He stood, walked toward her, slow, measured. "You think leaving makes you safe?" "Yes." "You're wrong." Now he was close, too close. "The moment they saw your face, you became part of this." Silence, her breath tightened slightly, but she didn't step back. "Then what are you saying?" His voice dropped. "You don't get to walk away from this." That could have sounded like control, like a threat, but something in his tone was different. It wasn't dominance, it was fear, buried, sharp, unfamiliar. "Then what do I get?" That question stopped him completely. She stepped closer. Now they were equals in distance. "If I stay, what do I get?" Not protection, not money, not orders. She was asking for something deeper, something real. And Dante, a man who controlled everything, didn't have an immediate answer. That was the moment everything shifted. Days passed, but not peacefully. There was tension everywhere. The staff whispered, the guards watched more closely. The inner circle questioned. Dante, he changed, subtle. But real. He checked security himself. He adjusted schedules. He became careful, not for himself, for her. Rain again, same balcony. But this time she didn't leave when she saw him. "You still haven't answered my question," she said. He didn't pretend not to understand. "What you get if you stay?" Silence. Then, "You get truth." She frowned slightly. "That's not enough." "I don't offer things I can't protect." That answer was honest, too honest. She studied him. "Do you even know how to live without control?" That question hit deeper than any insult, because the answer was no. That night, Dante didn't sleep, not because of threats, not because of enemies, but because of one question. What do I give her that isn't built on power? And by morning, he had an answer, not a safe one, not a logical one, but the only one that felt real. The message spread quickly. All senior members, main hall mandatory. They expected war planning, retaliation, blood. Instead, they got something else, something far more dangerous. Amara was called in. This time, she walked differently. Not like someone lost, but like someone aware, watching, thinking, choosing. The room fell silent when she entered. Dante stood at the head, eyes locked on her, not the room, not his men, her. He stepped forward slowly, then stopped right in front of her. You asked me what you get. The room tensed. No one moved, no one breathed. He reached into his pocket, pulled out a ring, dark, heavy, symbolic, not just wealth, authority, legacy, power. He took her hand, gentler than anyone expected. This world doesn't offer safety. A pause. It offers survival. His voice lowered. But you, pause. You deserve more than survival. That line hit the room like a shockwave, because this man, this untouchable force, was speaking like someone who felt deeply, dangerously. He slid the ring onto her finger, not as a command, not as ownership, but as a choice wrapped in risk. Stand with me. Belong to me, that change mattered. And I give you everything that comes with my name. Power, protection, war, responsibility, all of it. The room erupted, not in noise, but in tension, because this wasn't just a proposal. This was a declaration, a shift in power, a rewriting of rules. Victor stood abruptly. This is a mistake. Dante didn't look at him. That's not your decision. She's not one of us. Now Dante looked at him, cold, final. She is now. Silence. Heavy, unavoidable, all eyes turned to Amara. This was the moment that mattered, not his power, not his words, her decision. She looked at the ring, then at him, then at the room, all those men, all that danger, all that weight. Then she spoke, quiet but clear. If I say yes. A pause. I don't become silent. Dante didn't hesitate. Then don't be. Pause, and I don't become weak. His answer. You couldn't if you tried. That was the moment, not the ring, not the room. That she took a breath, then closed her fingers, not removing the ring, keeping it, choice made. And just like that, a maid didn't just survive a mafia world. She stepped into it. Backhand index pointing right, but what happens when power accepts someone it doesn't understand? Backhand index pointing right, and what happens when enemies realize she's now untouchable? That is where war begins. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to Real Diamond Stories, because the next part changes everything. She was supposed to stay invisible, but now she wore the most powerful man's name. And in his world, that didn't make her safe. It made her a target. The house was quiet again. But this silence, it wasn't peaceful. It was alert, watching, waiting. Every guard moved sharper. Every door locked faster. Every shadow felt heavier. And at the center of it all was Amara. Amara stood alone in her room. The ring rested on her finger, heavy, cold, real. She turned her hand slowly under the light. This wasn't jewelry. This was a declaration, a warning, a contract she didn't fully understand yet. Her voice was barely a whisper. What did I just become? Deep down, she knew the truth. You don't marry into power, you survive it. Downstairs, the tension finally snapped. Victor Hale didn't bother hiding it anymore. This changes everything, he said. One of the other lieutenants nodded. We've built this empire on discipline, control. And now, Victor continued, we're bending it for one person. Dante stood still, unmoved. Say what you really mean. Victor's jaw tightened. She's a liability. Silence. Then Dante stepped forward, slow, dangerous. If she was a liability, a pause, you'd already be replacing her. That shut the room down instantly. Because everyone understood what that meant. Across the city, in a dark office filled with quiet menace, Leon Cade finally had confirmation. A file slid across the table. A photo, Amara standing beside Dante, wearing the ring. Leon leaned back, studying it carefully. Fear in her eyes, he murmured. Interesting, very interesting. He smiled slowly. Break the man or break the girl. A pause. We start with her. Next morning, Amara was summoned, not to the kitchen, not to clean, but to Dante's private office. That alone changed everything. She stepped inside, closed the door behind her. You wanted to see me? Dante didn't respond immediately. He was watching her, studying, measuring something. Finally, if you're staying, voice was calm. You need to understand what that means. She crossed her arms slightly, then explain it. Fear, no hesitation, just expectation. That caught his attention again. This world doesn't forgive mistakes, he said. I've noticed. You will be watched. I already am. A pause. Then you will be tested. That one landed differently. Her eyes narrowed slightly. By who? Dante's answer was simple. Everyone. Heavy, then she asked the question that mattered most. And you? That stopped him for a second. Then I already am. Didn't take long. That afternoon, Amara was walking through the east corridor alone, too quiet, too still. Then footsteps behind her, fast, deliberate. She turned too late. A hand grabbed her arm, pulled hard. Her heart slammed, but she didn't freeze. She reacted, twisted. Pulled back, used her weight, not strength. Just instinct. The man lunged again, but this time she moved faster. Her voice cut through the hallway. Let go. Sharp, controlled, not fear, command. That hesitation, that split second, was all the guards needed. They rushed in, pinned him down. Silence returned. But everything had changed. Dante was there in seconds. His presence hit like a storm. He didn't look at the guards, didn't look at the attacker. He looked at her, only her. "Are you hurt?" That question again. But this time, she answered differently. A pause then, but I handled it. That mattered more than she realized. The attacker didn't last long. He broke fast. "Leon Cade," he said. The name dropped like a blade. Dante's expression darkened, because now this wasn't tension, this was war. That night, the inner circle gathered again. No confusion this time, no hesitation. "They've made their move," Dante said. Victor leaned forward. "Finally." Dante's next words shifted everything. They didn't come for territory. A pause. They came for her. Silence, heavy, unavoidable, and now, Dante continued, we respond. Later that night, Amara found him on the balcony, city lights stretching endlessly behind him. "You knew this would happen." "Didn't deny it." "Yes," her voice tightened. "And you still gave me a choice." Now he turned fully. "That wasn't for you." A pause. "That was for me." That line hit differently. She stepped closer. "Then don't protect me like I'm fragile." Then he stepped toward her too, closing the distance. "You're not fragile." A beat. "But you are important." That word hung in the air, dangerous, honest, unfamiliar. She studied him, really studied him. "You don't know how to do this," she said softly. He didn't argue. "No." A pause. "I know I won't lose you." That wasn't control, that wasn't power, that was something else, something deeper. And that scared her more than anything. Across the city, Leon Cade stood by a glass window overlooking the skyline. "They protected her once," he said. A man beside him nodded. "What now?" Leon smiled, cold, calculated. "We don't attack the house again." A pause. "We remove her from it." Just like that, the game changed. Because protecting Amara inside the mansion was one thing, but what happens when she's taken out of it? Backhand index pointing right, will Dante save her? Backhand index pointing right, or will this be the mistake that destroys everything he built? Next is where everything breaks. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to Real Diamond Stories. They didn't attack the mansion again. Because that would have been predictable. Instead, they waited for her to step outside. The estate was tighter than ever. More guards, more surveillance, more rules. And yet, for the first time since the attack, things felt manageable. Amara moved through the halls with purpose now, not invisible, not uncertain, aware, watched, but steady. And that alone made people uncomfortable. In the mirror, she didn't look like the same person. The girl who once avoided eye contact now held it. The girl who followed instructions now questioned them. But the biggest change, she wasn't afraid of the house anymore. She understood it. And that made her dangerous in a different way. Victor Hale had reached his limit. "You're letting this go too far," he said. Dante didn't look up. Define too far. Victor stepped closer. "She's influencing decisions." "No," Dante replied calmly. "Making decisions." "That's not what it looks like." Silence, sharp, then Dante finally looked at him. "And what does it look like?" Victor didn't hesitate. "It looks like weakness." That word hung in the air, heavy, final, wrong. Later that night, a call came through Dante's private line, encrypted, unexpected. He answered, silence, then a voice. "You're protecting the wrong thing." Dante's expression didn't change. "Who is this?" A soft chuckle. "You'll find out when you lose her." The line went dead. That wasn't just a threat, that was information. Someone close was talking. Dante stood still for a long moment, thinking, calculating. Then one thought landed harder than the rest. They knew she would leave the house. That wasn't public knowledge, that wasn't random, that was internal, which meant the problem wasn't outside, it was inside. The next morning, Amara insisted. "I need air." Dante didn't like it. "You have a balcony." "That's not the same thing." Silence, then, "I'm not a prisoner." That line forced his hand, because she was right, and he knew it. After a long pause, "Fine." His voice hardened. "You don't leave without security." Cars, 4 guards, standard protocol. Amara sat quietly in the back seat, watching the city pass by. Normal people, normal life. For a moment, it felt distant, like something she used to belong to. She didn't notice the second car behind them, not at first. It happened fast, too fast. A truck cut across the road, blocking the front vehicle. Brakes slammed, tires screamed, then impact. From behind, gunshots exploded into the air, controlled, targeted, professional. The guards reacted instantly. But so did the attackers. Doors were ripped open. Smoke filled the street, chaos. And then hands grabbing her, pulling her out. She didn't freeze, not this time. She kicked, twisted, fought, not like a trained fighter, but like someone who refused to disappear. "Go of me." Her voice cut through everything, sharp, fierce, alive. One attacker hesitated. That was enough. She broke free for a second, but not long enough. A cloth pressed over her mouth, the world blurred. Her last thought before darkness took her wasn't fear, it was him. Back at the estate, everything stopped. The moment the call came in. "She's gone." Silence, dead, heavy. Dante didn't move, didn't speak, didn't react, and that was worse than anger, because everyone in the room knew this wasn't just a mistake. This was war, personal. Victor stepped forward. We'll get her back. Dante's voice came out low, controlled, cold. You should hope so. That wasn't reassurance, that was a warning to everyone. Dante turned slowly. His gaze moved across every man in the room. You knew, he said quietly. No one spoke. You knew she was leaving. Still silence. Then, which means one of you, a pause, helped them. The room froze because now it wasn't just about rescue, it was about loyalty and survival. Darkness, cold, silence, then light. Dim flickering, Amara opened her eyes slowly, her head pounded, her hands tied. The room smelled like metal and dust. And then a voice, calm, almost amused. You're stronger than you look. She turned, and there he was, Leon Cade, watching her like she was the final piece of a puzzle. Leon stepped closer, slow, measured. You changed him, he said. She didn't respond, didn't give him anything good that made him smile. Now let's see what he does when you're taken away. Her voice came out steady. He'll find me. Leon tilted his head slightly. Of course he will. A pause. That's the point. Back at the estate, Dante stood alone, city lights reflecting in his eyes, cold, focused, deadly. They wanted my attention, he said quietly. A pause. They have it. Him, his entire empire waited for orders, for war, for blood. And this time it wasn't business, it was personal. And now, there's no going back. Backhand index pointing right. Will Dante destroy everything to get Amara back? Backhand index pointing right, or will saving her cost him his entire empire? Backhand index pointing right. And what happens when Amara realizes she's no longer just surviving? She's the reason war exists. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to Real Diamond Stories. They didn't hurt her, not physically. And somehow that made it worse. Because it meant she wasn't a victim, she was leverage. Amara wasn't in a dungeon. No chains on the wall, no darkness swallowing her whole. Instead, a clean room, minimal, cold, calculated. Her hands were tied, but everything else intentional. This wasn't about pain, this was about control. Leon Cade sat across from her, calm, observing, studying. You're not what I expected, he said. She didn't answer, didn't react, didn't give him the satisfaction. He smiled slightly. That's good. A pause. Silence is smarter than fear. Her eyes finally met his, sharp, focused. Then you should try it. That caught him off guard, just for a second. But Amara saw it. And that was enough. Leon leaned forward. You think this is about you? She didn't blink. It became about me when you took me. Silence, then a slow clap. Fair. He stood, walked around her. You're not the target. A pause, you're the trigger. That truth settled in the air, heavy, unavoidable. Back at the estate, Dante wasn't shouting, wasn't packing, wasn't reacting. He was still. And that terrified everyone, because when Dante went silent, it meant he was thinking. And when he thought, people disappeared. One by one, his inner circle stood before him. No torture, no violence, just questions, precise, sharp, relentless. Where were you yesterday at 9:10 p.m.? Who knew her schedule? Who approved the route? Every answer was analyzed, measured, weighed, until finally he reached Victor. Victor didn't flinch, didn't hesitate, didn't break eye contact. You think it's me, he said. Dante stepped closer. I think someone made a choice. You think I'd betray you? Dante's voice stayed calm. I think you don't agree with me. That's not betrayal. No, Dante replied. It's the beginning of it. Silence, tight, sharp, but Victor didn't fold, and that made things worse because now Dante didn't know who to trust. Back in captivity, Amara was thinking, not panicking, not breaking, thinking. Leon returned. You're adapting fast, he said. I don't have a choice. You always have a choice. She tilted her head slightly. Then why are you doing this? That question shifted something. Leon paused, just slightly. Then, because men like Dante need to be reminded they can lose. It was not greed, not power, ego, history, war. You don't hate me, Amara said. Leon raised an eyebrow. You hate him. Silence, then a faint smile. You're observant. She leaned forward slightly. Long as I'm here, you don't win. That line hit deeper than expected because she was right. She wasn't the end game, she was the message, and messages expire. Back at the estate, Dante stood over a digital map, routes, timings, movements. Then one detail clicked, the second car, not his, not authorized, but perfectly timed. Which meant someone fed that information out, and only 3 people had access to that level of detail. The circle was closing. Dante called them in, Victor and 2 others. No warning, no explanation, just presence. You have one chance, Dante said. Tell me what I need to know. No one spoke. Then one man shifted slightly, too slightly. That was enough. Dante's gaze locked on him, and in that moment, everyone knew. He was done. It happened fast. No speech, no drama, just a signal. And the man was removed, gone. Silence followed, heavy, permanent. Dante turned to the remaining 2. Now we're closer. Relief, not comfort, just truth. Hours passed, no food, no answers, no escape. For the first time, doubt crept in, not fear of death, but something worse. What if he can't find me? Her breathing slowed, her thoughts tightened. And for a moment, she felt small again. Then she remembered the balcony, the rain. The way he said, "I don't offer things I can't protect." Her eyes closed briefly, and when they opened again, the doubt was gone, replaced with something stronger, belief. Back at the estate, everything shifted. No more defense, no more waiting. Dante stood before his men, eyes cold, voice final. "This ends now." A pause. They wanted my attention. Pause. They have my full focus. The room tightened, energy rising, danger building. Find them. A request, not a plan, an order. Cars rolled out, weapons checked. Contacts activated. Every shadow in the city became a lead, because when Dante hunted, there were no safe places left. Amara sat in silence, waiting, thinking, enduring. Dante stood in motion, tracking, planning, closing in. Two different worlds, one inevitable collision. And now it's no longer about power. It's about who breaks first. Backhand index pointing right. Will Amara outlast the pressure? Backhand index pointing right. Will Dante find her before it's too late? Backhand index pointing right. And what happens when the truth behind Leon's war is finally revealed? And trust me, it won't be clean. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to Real Diamond Stories, because the next part is where everything collides. They found her, but not in time to plan. Only in time to act. It came from something small, almost invisible, a partial signal ping from a discarded device. One of the attackers made a mistake, and Dante, he never missed mistakes. Industrial district, one of his men confirmed. Abandoned shipping complex. Dante didn't hesitate. Move. No backup plans, no delay, because every second now was a risk. Back inside the cold room, Amara noticed the shift. Footsteps were different, faster, more tense, voices lower, urgent. Something had changed. And instinct told her exactly what. He was coming. Leon stood by the window, looking out at the empty yard. "They found us faster than I expected," he said calmly. Amara said nothing. He turned to her. No fear. She held his gaze. "You wouldn't still be talking if you weren't preparing to leave." A slow smile. Smart. A pause. Not fast enough. That line carried weight because it meant he wasn't planning to stay. Black vehicles rolled in silently, engines cut, doors opened. No wasted movement, no noise. Just precision. Dante stepped out, eyes locked on the structure ahead, cold, focused, final. This ends now. Started without warning, no announcements, no negotiations, just action. Guards went down quickly, clean, controlled. Dante moved through the building like he already knew the layout, every step closer, every second tighter. At first it was distant, then closer, then unmistakable. Chaos, movement, impact. Her breathing slowed, not fear, recognition. He's here. Dante stepped into the main corridor and stopped. Leon stood at the far end, waiting, calm, unshaken. "You came fast," Leon said. Dante's voice was low. "You stayed too long." Silence, then Leon smiled. "You always were predictable." Dante didn't respond, didn't engage, didn't play, because this wasn't about him. Leon stepped forward slowly. "You built everything on control," he said, "and she broke it." Dante's eyes didn't move. She revealed it. That answer wasn't expected. And for the first time, Leon paused. Inside the room, the noise outside reached a peak. The guard at her door hesitated, just for a second. That was enough. Amara moved fast, sharp. She knocked the chair into him, twisted, broke free, and ran. No hesitation, no looking back. The hallway opened, and there he was, Dante, standing still, alive, their eyes locked. Everything else disappeared. For a moment, neither of them moved, not because they couldn't, but because the moment was real. After everything, fear, distance, silence, war, they were here, alive, together. Dante stepped forward first, slowly. Like if he moved too fast, she might disappear. Amara. Her name wasn't power, wasn't control. It was something else now, relief. She didn't speak, didn't need to. She closed the distance. And for the first time, she didn't stop herself. She held onto him tight, real, alive, and for a man who controlled everything, Dante Valen held her back like it was the only thing grounding him. She pulled back slightly. "You came." Looked at her, steady, cert. "I told you I would." No exaggeration, no drama, just truth. And that was more powerful than anything else. From the shadows, Leon watched, silent, calculating. Then he stepped back, disappeared. Because this wasn't his end, this was just a message delivered. Back at the estate, everything changed, not slowly, immediately. Amara didn't return as staff. She didn't return as someone hidden. She returned as someone seen. And this time, no one questioned it. Because they all understood now, she wasn't a weakness. She was the reason Dante became unstoppable. Days later, she stood in the same room where everything began. But this time, she wasn't standing at the edge. She was at the center, Dante beside her, not in front, not above, beside. You don't have to stay, he said quietly. She looked at him, then at the room, then back at him. I know, a pause. But I'm not here because I have to be. Silence, then. Here because I choose to be. That choice, that was power. The city stretched beneath them. Lights endless, danger constant. But now different. Because two people who were never meant to share a world had rewritten the rules. And that's how. A girl who was meant to stay invisible became the center of a war. Backhand index pointing right. If this story moved you, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to Real Diamond Stories, your one stop for Afro-Korean romance stories. Turn on the notification button for part 2 of this story, and tell us where in the world you are watching from to help us know where our real audience is located. I will be at the comment section. Every one of you matters most to help us grow. The next story might be even more dangerous.